Hello, everyone. I hope that you're all doing great and that, the semester is going pretty good for you all. For me, this past few days and weeks, to be completely honest, have been mostly focusing on work. School has been a little bit less time consuming, but work has been a lot. Just being very busy with it. Very grateful, but, ready to have a little bit of a break from work. But yes, so I know I've been doing this kind of like a book series, so I'll just give you a little update on my book journey. I'm still reading the book that I started last week, which is All the Light We Cannot See. And it's a very good book. It's just very different from what I usually read, but I'm still giving it a chance. I'm in that mode where I'm the kind of person that like once they start something, I need to finish it. So that's when I'm like, I need to finish it. But I really hope that by the end, I do like it. It's very nice. It's very nicely written. It's just probably not my genre that I usually like to read. But still giving it a chance. So hopefully, again, I'll like it by the end. We'll see. Hopefully. But for this assignment, the composer that I'm going to be researching is John Corigliano, and I want to apologize if I do say his name wrong. It's very difficult, and I've been trying so hard, but I just cannot get to say it. So a little bit background about him. So he's an American composer. He was born in 1938 in New York. He is the son of a violinist. His father's name is John Corigliano, and you can see how this having a father, right, that's a violinist can it was not mentioned on the research, but I can imagine that that played some impact along with his own musical interests. But just the beginning to that musical journey of his. Um, After graduating, from music school, he worked as a music programmer for the New York Times Radio, which then eventually he became the music director for that same radio. And he has taught in many different schools. Some of the ones that really stood out was the Manhattan School. So you can just see how, his. I think it's important to say that like how he's not only composing but also teaching. I think that's something that shows his art and just trying to showcase his art not only through what his music but also teaching it, right? And just his views, and like I feel like that has helped to build his impact in music. But during the 1980s, he served as the first composer in residence of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and this was just the beginning, kind of like of his big career. And eventually, he began to get recognized a lot. So some of the main, which you may recognize, a lot of them. So he has won 2 Grammys for Best Contemporary Composition, but also others such as the International Music Awards, the Academy Awards, the Pulitzer Prize, the Gold Medal of the National Art Club, and he also the President's Medal of George Washington University. So again, international awards and national awards, you're talking top tier. So it just goes to show the quality of his work. And one of the main reasons why I believe that this was all possible is because he has also collaborated a lot with mainstream musicians and institutions. And, he has been doing films that have been successful: The Red Violin, The Altered Stated, and The Revolution. So just being part of this works to reach a large audience, again, not only through sound, but also through visuals, which plays a big role in his composing style. So in his early works, he is known for his tonal work. And he has this kind of led him to not fully showcase his technical range. And he has a thing, he really likes to focus on progressivism and and the attention that he gives to dramatic elements, which is very present in his work. You just hear that drama in his music, and I'll get a little bit more into detail once I go over the piece that I chose to analyze. But during a period of his time, he started working with Bernstein, which kind of shifted his view and the way he composed. He shifted to a more architectural method of composing, and just more abstract in the sense where he was just not focusing only on the sound, but also in creating words and images through the sound, and just working with different tones, such as microtonal and timbral. So you can just see how he's expanding and just like willing to learn, right? Different aspects. And some of his work has been played over 150 orchestras, so worldwide. So his work is internationally known, and some of the works he has done has been for memorials for victim of AIDS. So contemporary issues. He has been a part of not only composing music for art, but also for activism in a sense, or just more, just being more active through society in a sense. And he has more of a contemporary work, which includes the Nostalgic Guitar Concerto and the Mr. Tambourine Man in 2000. So 20 to 30-year-old work, we can kind of see how this work will be done today. Not necessarily the same, but you can see how it's more contemporary. We're really getting into that period of classical music where it's more closer to our time. And you really do hear a difference. You can notice that difference, especially after this class. You can kind of see the shift. It's more noticeable. But he is mostly known for the physical placement of instruments through his pieces. So what I mean by this, usually you would have people on a stage and just play your piece, and it sounds beautiful. But for him, he wanted to explore placement. So what he would do, he would have some people on stage, but also he will have some people off stage, and some might be in the pit or just around the auditorium. So you can imagine how that really plays a big role in how you listen to a piece. There's the echo, the acoustic, just like the placement and everything really has an effect on how you not only visualize it, but how you intake it. And it may be very different for other people because you might be on the balcony or you can be on the ground, right? And it's the way you experience it is very unique, which I think brought a more distinct, that everyone kind of gets a different experience with his music. So that's something that I feel that's very unique from his work. So the work that I will be analyzing from him is the Red Violin Caprices for violin, and this piece was composed in 1999. So for this piece, it has a very slow opening, but then again, that iconic dramatic sound of his, it's present since the beginning. You hear that dramatic. You just feel like it just feels very emotional, and it just gives you a sense of kind of like nostalgia in a sense. There's only string instruments for this part, obviously violin, as it says in the name. But I do notice that perhaps it could be another violin. It just feels like at some certain parts of the song, you do hear another set of instrument, still within the same family, but just another instrument, right? Throughout the whole piece, again, at the beginning, it starts and there's slight crescendos, but then one thing that I found very interesting about the crescendos and decrescendos was that during the crescendos, during the slow parts, they were very smooth and they will like go more linear. But when it was faster, just to add to the dramatic element to his composition, right? He would do it in steps. So it just felt like it was going up in steps, like more signified instead of like a clear line. And then when it went down, it will go very smoothly. So I think it was like that contrast and variation that it had, and it really created a sense of drama. Like it just changed it like the whole setting kind of changes. I'm a very visual person, so for me, like the whole setting kind of changes during those moments. But also, we do see a lot of play with the pitch. So throughout the piece, there's a lot of similarities. You just find them. You just kind of hear them throughout the meters. I was able to recognize a few, but you can recognize little changes, little accents, and they came in pitches. Sometimes they were very high, and that was kind of like the crescendo. And then like when it was low, that drama and stuff like that. But also with the high pitch, it was very dramatic. It just felt kind of like a liberation, but also like kind of like just closed up the sound. It was a very interesting, complex piece. It just had a variety and an interesting appeal through the whole music. Again, it was nice to have that contrast. The beginning kind of slow, and then just changing throughout the rest of the piece. Especially the ending, there's a lot of crescendos, like very they repeat each other, but it's very interesting to see how it starts in one place and then it ends in a completely different place. And one thing that I did want to note was that I did watch the video that I watched right for this performance and this composition was it had the score, and this really helps me. I by no means know how to read this, but I can visualize a little bit, like just kind of like gather what it is. I wouldn't be able to tell you what notes are being played, right? But it just helps to visualize it, and I think that really helped me understand more of his style, and I really, really enjoyed it even more. It just gave me like a little few more insight, even though my knowledge is very limited when it comes to reading scores. Um, so, I just want to give you that tip. Maybe it can help, and if you want to give it a look, go ahead. I'll leave the link on the discussion board. But my thoughts on this, on the composer and his music and how it relates to this class. So, I think last week the composer that I analyzed was more into abstract sound, with the brain, but this time it's not quite at that level, but it's still very just pushing music to its limits and just trying to see how we can amplify sound, not just by like making it louder, but how can we amplify the experience of intaking sound. And the way he did it was through the placement of instruments and the players. So this is what makes them stand out. But I do feel a little bit that, like, due to this nature, a video recording perhaps may do it a little bit more justice. But again, I think in person is when you really get to analyze and truly intake what his composition takes and has. I think, like with the placement, like I mentioned before, you can be in different places of the theater or where it's being placed, and you would hear it differently, maybe very slightly, but it's just that thing where it's different for everyone that I really feel like his music has made an impact. And I feel like that's what makes it interesting, that no one can really have the same, have heard the same thing. And due to the timing, it just feels more contemporary. Like it just does. It just sounds. I feel like if it was played on a playlist where like contemporary, like from today, it would feel like it would really fit in. Like it feels like something that would be placed now. It doesn't feel, in a sense, dated, and I can really tell that it just fits more of this time, even just the composition. And I feel like it definitely has, inspired other generations, and not only in classical music, but also like in other genres of music. I think like there was a few parts where I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of a song from an artist that I listened to. So that was very nice to kind of see like the impact that it had, right? Also, this is something that like I would listen to. I've mentioned before that I don't really listen to classical music, but I feel like this is the type of music that I will be more willing to listen to, just because again, that contemporary, that like, I don't know, it just feels more modern in a sense, which is I didn't think that I was going to be able to recognize, but thanks to this course I have been, and it's really interesting to see how much I've had progress in like understanding music in that sense, even though it's not that high level and that, that advanced, but just enough for me to notice those changes and want to explore music to a deeper meaning and level. So yes, it just feels like it would be produced today. That's basically what I'm saying, that it feels like like an artist would come up with this type of sound and it will perfectly blend in and it wouldn't feel dated, and it's just something that still has that dramatic feel that he is known for, but it just feels more made for a newer audience. I don't think, and again, I don't know how this may have been received, but I really, as a not that far away listener from like when it was composed, I feel like I can appreciate it more. So yes, that concludes my video. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. I hope that you're all staying safe and that you're all doing great with all your classes. It's almost spring break, so keep it going, and I'll see you on the next week video. Thank you. Bye.